Well, hey everybody, welcome to the Impressing Ideas Live. We're so excited to have you here. And by all of y'all, I mean, let's see, we have students right now that are live in the Dalles, Oregon, in Seattle, Washington. Those of you that are in Michigan, Florida, Texas, welcome. Very excited to see you. We have a fantastic sold out studio here. Ladies, say hello. You know what, we're just glad to see you. If you are on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button, follow along with us, and ring that bell so you get the notifications knowing when we go live. If you're on Facebook, like and follow not just this video, but our page. Find out what's going on, all the new exciting changes that are happening here. There is a description in the link if you need to know what's going on in class today. If you have any graphic 45 12 by 12, you'll need 2.5 sheets for this project, so grab that out of your stash. And for all future reference, I just need you to know these classes are sponsored by you. That's it. So if you enjoy crafting, please feel free to click our store link and wander around finding all the goodies that are coming in. We keep bringing in the new releases. We may or may not have unpacked a Lawn Fawn box last night. Anyway, we are very excited to see you. Thank you for being here. By the way, we are here on the beach, and people wonder, why would I want to drive all the way to the beach? Well, that's an excellent question, because right now, for those of you that are frying your buns off, we are at, I think, 59 degrees. Here's a good look at what's going on out there. So, you know, why would you want to go to the beach to do crafting? You can think of a couple of reasons. So, with no further ado, let's get fired up, running through the test. Once again, we're getting going on our project. Our fantastic teacher is queued up. Most of our students are in place. One of them or two of them have wandered off. We're going to get started anyway. So, with no further ado, welcome to the Impressing Ideas virtual classroom.
Good morning, and thank you so much for joining me. Today, we are going to do a 5x7 pocket card with hidden clip. And you know, mostly the reason why we're doing this is so many times we buy that collection pack and then we have all these leftovers, and so my prayer is that this will help solve what do we do with the leftovers. So what does it look like? Well, this happens to be from the Princess collection. We have used 2.5 sheets. Do you have to use these 2.5 sheets? No. You can use any 2.5 double-sided 12 by 12 sheets. This happens to be from Graphic 45's Princess collection. I love this collection. It is a timeless collection. So let's get started. In order to do this card, we're going to use a paper cutter, a scoreboard, a bone folder. If you have a dye ink and a blending tool, or a water-based marker. I love Tombow for this purpose. We're going to use a pair of basic gray magnets. These are fantastic. We are going to use my favorite scissors, which are Tim Holtz long titanium shears. You're going to use a ruler. I think I said a bone folder already. We will use the envelope punch board for several reasons. I've pulled out some vintage lace and some Studio Katia vintage shimmer pearls because everything looks prettier with pearls or bling, right girls? So let's get started. Oh yes, thank you for that. So one more time, we are going to create a 5x7. There's your magnetic closure. We're going to add 4 different pockets. We're going to have a hidden clip, paper clip, to hold, I don't know, event tickets, a photo, a secret message. We're going to add 1, 2, 3, 4 pockets. Is it on? So close, close, and close. Okay, 5x7. So I am going to have Trish grab these 2 samples, and we're going to put them on. You choose the tables. The third sample will be for the missing, the one I make today will go onto the third table. Okay, so let's get started. In your class kit notes, I say, let's start by removing the brand label from the top of your 12 by 12 paper, and I happen to have chosen If the Crown Fits. So I'm going to use my Tim Holtz guillotine trimmer, which is my favorite. I'm going to line this up. I love this trimmer because every time you use it, you sharpen the blade. You do not have to worry about buying replacement blades. Love it. Okay. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to turn our paper sideways so that we can't read the words, and we're going to put it face down so that we're looking at B side. Why are we going to do that? Well, because every time we make a score line, it creates that indentation. And when we fold our paper, well, first, when we score the paper, we're redirecting the fibers of the paper so that it will go in the direction that we want it to. So that's my why. And when I fold, I always like to hide the bump. Okay? It helps prevent any cracking or tearing of your paper. So y'all know I'm a why girl. That's my why. Okay? So we are sideways and we are face down. And our first score is going to be at 7 inches. So I always like to score twice, 2 gentle folds or scores instead of one firm score.
What's your measurement on square?
So 7 inches. Thank you for asking. So again, our first score line, 7 inches.
Cindy, this is directional paper, so is it 7 inches from the bottom of the 7 inches up on the paper?
So we're going to turn it sideways, and we're going to measure over 7 inches from the bottom. Yep. And score. Now remember when I showed you the card sample, we have 2 panels that are being folded in and a top one folding over the top. That means we need to create a little gusset. So our second score line will be at 7 1/8. Now, before we score that, if you feel like you're going to load up this card with lots of things in the pocket, you may want to move over to 7 1/4. Because we want to close this without any obstruction. We want to make sure it's not bowing. So, you know what? Let's do 7 1/4 just to show the difference. Okay, it will also be easier for you to fold. Your instructions say 7. And I'm going to wait just a minute till I see everybody's got their 7-inch score, and either their 7 1/8 and your 7 1/4. 90 degrees so that it's now face up, and you can see the direction of the paper is in the proper direction. Okay, and now we're going to score at 3 1/2 and 8 1/2. And my Y, remember I said we're going to create a 5 by 7. We need to make sure the center of our card remains 5. So this is a 12-inch sheet of cardstock. If we back away 5 inches, because we want the card to be 5 inches, the leftover is 7. So we have to take that 7 inches and divide it in half. Half of 7 1/2 is 3 1/2. That's how we came up with our 3 1/2-inch score. Then you could either turn it upside down and do 3 1/2, or back 3 1/2 inches away from 12 and you get 8 1/2. Make sense? Okay. And I'm going to give you quiz questions at the end of the day, at the end of the class, just because I need to make sure that I am making sense. And because I want to give you rewards. This is all to add to your tool belt. So, is everybody good? So 3 1/2 and 8.5 are the two side score lines. Okay? Now I'm going to put my little tool aside, scoreboard aside, move my remaining papers aside, and here's where I want to make sure that you can see this well. We're going to help ourselves if we flip this over and we start folding on the score lines. You don't need to burnish it yet, just fold it so that you can see the lines that you've created, or the marks you've created. So again, we are hiding the bump. We've got our two side folds. Now we're going to fold that 7-inch fold, or score line. I'm using the wrong words today, sorry girls. 7 inches. Then you're gonna open this, and here is a tip that I always use, and I hope you add this to your toolkit. I'm going to take my ruler and line it up against that 7 1/8 or 7 1/4 inch, and fold my paper up and over that line. That way it will help stay straight. See that? So just hold your ruler firmly in place, put your fingers underneath your paper, and just begin folding up around your ruler. And I promise you, you're going to get a nice, crisp, clean fold. And then, here's what we're going to practice doing. We're going to engage that gusset, which means we're going to have it stand up at that 90-degree angle. And we'll come back to that. Let me see if you can see that. Can you see that? It's now, this gusset is now engaged. It acts as a spine. Okay? And I promise you, this ruler will help you attain that result. Nice. Well done, you. Okay? All right, I'm going to unfold this. Most of the reason why I had you do this is our next step is going to be, we're going to turn this so that the direction is in the proper place just for a moment, because I want you to identify, we are going to cut away these two upper corners, left and right. We're going to cut, let me pause and gather my thoughts. We are going to cut away these two outside corners, leaving the flap, and we want to make certain that when we're cutting, we are cutting just inside the score line of this center fold. We're going to come all the way down to the first score line, which is 7, and then cut across. Now, if any of you are struggling seeing these lines, I would recommend taking your pencil and ruler and just tracing that score line so that you can see. Now, I'm going to demonstrate what we're going to do, and then that will help you determine if you need to actually use that pencil. So I've turned my paper upside down, and remember, I'm going to cut just inside the score line. I want to get rid of that bulk, or that I want to just leave a nice smooth edge. So we're going to cut away. I'm going to cut just inside the score line so that this piece will have that bump on the edge. I'm going to keep saying it in different ways so that I make certain that I'm using language that makes sense to everyone. I'm going to pass the first score line, and I'm going to go all the way down to 7 inches. That first score line that we created. Now, see, we have that engaged gusset. I'm going to cut it away. So now I'm going to cut just past that 7-inch score line, just inside the score line. Okay? So now we have a smooth, there's no bump on any of that. We are going to use these pieces, so don't throw them away. Now I'm going to repeat on this side. I'm going to cut just inside the score line. This is the hardest part of the whole class. And it's not hard. I just don't want anybody panicking. These scissors are fabulous for this because they're long. They have long blades. So pass the 7-inch onto your second score line and cut that away, leaving our 2 doors and our flap. That's our end goal.
So the bigger pieces are left behind.
So when we are coming down here, you go to the second line, you said?
Correct. Yeah. I'm sorry, Rachel, say that again. Got
The
it?
bigger pieces are left behind, that's all I'm just trying to.
Yep.
Just
No, I love ask questions in many different ways so that we're making sure to say it all the different ways. Okay, I can put my ruler away. I'm going to wait just a minute till everybody's got that cut.
That's the second.
Yep. So go to the 7-inch score line, but then cut just past that so that you're getting rid of that bump. That way you have a clean edge all the way around. Because remember, when we score, we create that bump. We're just cleaning that up, we're getting rid of it. Getting rid of any extra bump, any unsightly goodness. And this just all goes to your, what's the word? Your, lose my word, it will come to me. Your, both, but yet just these are the things that help you have a best finished product. Correct, Frida. Yep. Excellent. Are we ready for the? Oh, yes, Sandy.
On this piece here, was I supposed to be on this side of the bump or that side of the bump to cut it?
I will answer it like this. We don't want to feel any bump on our center flap. We don't want to feel a bump at all.
Okay.
So does that answer the question? We should be cutting just past the score line toward the inside. See, I just keep answering in different ways because eventually it will make sense to all who are listening. Aha, that's always the answer.
Well, I have a box at home that has 12-inch ruler,
Yep.
and I just didn't bring the whole thing, I just didn't want to bring the big bulk, I just,
Gotcha. Yep.
yeah.
All right, are we ready for the next step? All right. Now, we're going to pay attention to the pieces that we cut away, and almost always B-side as a feature, and we're going to end up creating a pocket in the lower left and the lower right. Okay, so I'm going to set this aside for a minute. That means I'm going to get our scoreboard back out, so if you can grab your scoreboard, and just for demonstrating purposes, I'm going to put these in the coordinating corners, left and right. That's just going to be a reminder. Okay, this time we're going to create some hinges for our pockets that are slightly smaller than our typical. Typically we do a 1/2 inch hinge to make a pocket. This time we're going to do 3/8, which is the line just prior to half. And we're going to do it making certain that our score lines are on the correct side. So for our left pocket, we want to create a score line at 3/8 of an inch on the left side. Then we're going to turn our pocket clockwise 90 degrees so that it's now measuring 5 inches long. And we're going to score at 3/8 of an inch. Now you're going to see that, wait, I have prior score lines that I cut away. Who cares? We're just going to fold this under anyways. So I'm going to repeat the score lines. So back to the original, it measures 3.5 inches. I'm going to score at 3/8 of an inch. I'm going to rotate it clockwise so that it's now 5 inches across, and I'm going to score at 3/8 of an inch. Okay? Now I'm going to set this aside for a moment, and I'm going to come over here. Now that doesn't mean you have to, but just so that I'm as clear as I can be, this time we want our hinge on the right side. Okay? So we're going to measure in, and if you've got your pocket clear over on the 12-inch line, that means you're going to score at 11 5/8. Either have you do this, because I know most of you are right-handed, so this is probably easier, or you can deliberately turn it over here, come to your left, making sure that you turn it upside down. So if you do that, if you take this right-hand pocket and you rotate so that it's upside down, your directional piece is upside down, and score at 3/8 of an inch, you're doing exactly what we need you to do.
She said at the bottom half rather than the top.
Okay, then we're going to turn this so that it is measuring over 5 inches, and the direction is going in the opposite way, and we are going to score at 3/8 of an inch again. Okay?
So it should be at the top of your crown.
This one would be, this time it'll be at the top of the crowns, which when you turn it around, it's not, it's at the bottom. So I'm going to repeat that. See this? This is the left pocket, and our
Yeah, you're
hinge
using the other side of the board,
is,
that's why I'm trying to figure it out.
so I'm going to say it in a different way. Our left pocket has the hinge on the left side and the bottom. Our right pocket has the hinge on the right side and the bottom. Okay?
So it goes this way.
Okay? So,
Cindy? If Pam puts it over here, on this side,
is it the right pocket?
right pocket,
Upside down. Then just put it upside down.
okay, like that?
Yep.
And then 3/8
And 3/8.
3/8.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you for keep asking. There's no such thing as a bad question or too many questions. Just keep asking. Okay? I want to make certain that I am saying the directions in such a way that it makes sense. And Sandy, I don't know if I have another paper.
We're good.
Sarah,
Good.
Sarah?
Oh, bless you, Sarah. All right. I'm going to wait 5 more seconds because I want to make sure everybody's got this accomplished. Are we there? Okay, I can move my scoreboard away. We're going to get out our scissors and our bone folder. Okay? So remember that what the first rule was, we score, creating that indentation, and then we flip it over and we fold to hide the bump. We're going to do that now. We're going to fold, we're going to flip it over and fold our paper on those score lines that we made. And why, remember, why do we do that? Somebody tell me why we fold to hide the bump.
Cindy told me.
More than Cindy told me to. What's the why?
No, it's the paper structure.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So the answer is when we score, we create an indentation and a mountain or a bump on the back side. When we fold, we want to hide that bump because the integrity of the paper is such that when we do that, it prevents it from cracking or tearing. Okay, that's the why. Now, we have this bulk, right? This corner square, we need to amend that. So here's what we're going to do. We can do one of two things. So I'm going to have you choose. This is a very small pocket. I'm going to cut at an angle. See the X or the, you see a solid square and then the rest? Oops. Can you see that? There's a square in each of the corners where those score lines intersected. I am going to just remove the bulk by cutting at an angle. Now you could cut it at an angle and then rotate your scissor a little bit, but I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to cut at an angle. Okay? Leaving this little triangle that has score lines in it. I'm going to repeat on the other side. Cut right through that intersection. Just cut that. We're just going to miter our corner.
So you're trying not to cut the corner though? Correct?
I'm right on that. I'm right on the intersection of
Got it.
the two scores. Good question. Okay, now I'm going to flip this over and show you the Y. So see, now it comes together, and we don't have that bulk. That one was done better than this one, but it's not a crisis if you have a gap or an overlap. Both will be fine. Okay, good? At this point, we are wise to get out either our water-based marker or our dye ink and our blending tool. I love the Distress inks for this. I love double-sided papers, double-sided cardstocks, but most printed double-sided cardstocks give you a white core. So let's get rid of that. Whoops.
Only have black and
And I kind of got ahead of myself. I didn't need to do that yet because we still need to cut our pockets at an angle. So now we're going to get out our paper cutters.
Cindy, what color was your combo that you used?
You can use your black, you can use a dark brown, you can use a sepia. Absolutely. That's what I almost always use. Okay, now I want everybody to have their left pocket in their hand.
you don't want us to cover them then.
Okay? I want you to pay attention to the direction of the paper and the fact that your hinges are on the left as a reminder that this is your left pocket. Okay? We are going to do a cut. We're going to engage those folds, so now it's folded under. Okay? So now we see a smaller, let me measure. We've got 3 1/4 by, and this measurement is not important at all. I'm just telling you just so that everybody is doing the same thing. We're 4 5/8-ish. Here's where it's important. Now that it is folded back, I'm going to line up the corners of my pocket so that the top of the paper is on the cutting blade, that top corner, and the bottom is on the cutting blade. Am I making sense there? So we've got that angle, a diagonal pocket. So I'm going to take it out. We're folded under. The hinges are inside, away from the blade. We're going to have these two corners, top and bottom, lined up where the blade will cut, and we're going to cut it in half. This has no hinges on it. This does. This is our left pocket.
Should you have little pieces from your hinges?
If you fold it under, you wouldn't. If it was flat, then trim them away.
I folded it under.
You shouldn't have any. So if you have edges, just get rid of them.
I just want to make sure the little triangles were coming off.
Yep, they're coming off. Now we're going to repeat that same thing over here. So this one is our right pocket. We're going to fold this under the two hinges, and we're going to reverse what we did before. This time the hinges are going to be hanging outside of the score blade, not the score blade, the cut blade. And we are going to have our two corners that we want to trim away. Pocket. Our folded hinges are out here hanging off. Okay? And I'm going to cut. Okay? Now we have a left and a right diagonal pocket with the directions going in the correct way. Everybody good? Okay? And you know what? If we do it in a different way and we get a different result, it's an opportunity to decorate it. So none of this is life-altering. I don't want anybody panicked. Okay? Is everybody good? All right. Now we can, I got ahead of myself before. Now we can use our dye ink and our blending tool. Get rid of that white core. You can decide whether you want to shabby chic this up or if you just want to get rid of the core. I really just want to get rid of the core. Okay. Let's set this up here and let's go ahead. If you have a corner chomper, which I think I failed to say is something we're going to use, I'm going to open this up in your corner chomper that I have from We Are Memory Makers, the Crocodile corner chomper. It has a 1/2 inch corner rounder and a 1/4 inch corner rounder. I'm going to go ahead and use the smaller of the two. I'm going to use the 1/4 inch. And I am going to cut the top left and right corners to give it a prettier look. I'm just going to round those corners. If you have, so I'll show you what that looks like. When you fold that down, it's just a cleaner look. You can use that too. Yep, that's perfect. Okay, everybody good? Does anybody have a corner chomper? I apologize for not saying that. If not, you can use this. And if you don't, well, and we'll wait because we'll use it in just a minute too, in a different spot. Sorry, that was mixed messaging. I'm so sorry. If you are waiting for a corner chomper, we are now going to glue our pockets in place, left and right. And here's where, I'm a big fan of Scor-Tape, but I don't want to use Scor-Tape on my pockets because your Scor-Tape never really is not sticky. So if you accidentally get too much Scor-Tape on here and you go to fill your pocket, it's possible that you could cause it to get stuck. I'm gonna share, I'm a big fan of liquid glue on all of your pockets because liquid glue dries. Okay, so now I'm gonna flip my edges over. I'm only gonna put liquid glue on the hinges. And I'm not going to go to the very edges because this glue is going to spread. Then I'm going to hold the left door up and I'm going to bring my pocket flush to my paper and wiggle it into place so that it is completely flush with the left and bottom edge of my card. Make sense? And then I'm going to burnish it with my fingers so that it knows this is where it's now permanently going to live. Yes?
When you colored, did you just color the cut edge?
Yeah.
Or did you also color the outside edges?
I just did my,
Cut.
but if you want yours the other way,
Sure.
yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Answering the microphone, because
Oh, the question was, did we distress all the edges or just the angled pocket? And it was just the angled pocket. But remember, this is your card. You can do it however you want. So now I'm going to repeat that same instruction for the right pocket. I'm going to put some liquid glue. I'm going to hold my panel up just a slight bit, just so it's easier to see the flush edge. That's another great reason to use liquid glue. You can wiggle it into position. Okay. Burnish it in place. Watch for any excess glue. So if you see that, this goes back to your craftsmanship. That's what I was trying to think of earlier. If you have excess glue, get rid of it now. Don't let it sit there and get sticky and transfer onto something else. Get rid of it. It's all these little tiny details that make a difference. So I'm going to pause for a minute until I know that everybody's got their pockets in place. If you have that done, I'm going to put the glue in my, the needle back in my tip. I am now going to remind everybody that this is a 5-inch flap, right? And as an indicator that this is going to be a pocket, I love to use my envelope punch board. So in order to center this, I'm going to put this top flap under this blue of my envelope punch board, and I'm going to line it up at the 2.5-inch mark, because of course 2.5 is half of 5 inches. So I'm going to slide it underneath there. I'm going to punch, and you get this fun little finger notch. That helps to identify this is going to be a pocket. Okay? Did I say that well? Now, if you don't have an envelope punch board, you could use a circle punch and just use half of it. You could use a square punch and turn it at an angle and just use half of it. You could use your scissors and just create a little triangle right there. Okay? The other place that I'm going to corner around are these two top left and right, we're going to call them doors. So again, I'm going to use the smaller of the two corner edges. I'm going to punch it at a 1/4 inch, corner rounder. And now, Miss Rachel, if you wouldn't mind grabbing this so we can, unless everybody has, does everybody need this? You have one? Does anybody else need a corner rounder? Okay. Please, please, please use my corner chomper. You got it. We'll do that too. Sandy, how about if I have you grab the envelope punch board and we'll pass that around. And we'll just keep passing that till everybody gets it. If you have your edges cornered, top left and right, and top left and right, you can now take your blending tool and get rid of the white core. So just look at that for a minute, you'll see what I'm talking about. The purpose of this is to simply get rid of the white core. If you want to shabby chic this up, you will add more ink. You'll make it come into the design of the paper rather than just getting rid of the white core. Now, if you have not yet received the envelope punch board, you may wait a minute because of course it's going to make another cut. But I will do this. Does anybody else need dye ink and a blending tool? You girls are so good. You brought all your supplies. So good.
I'm not that good. Next time I will.
That's all right. You know, and I'm always willing to share what we have. Always. It's just when you use what you have purchased, you practice. And you get better and better and better.
I have it at home. I have to have it.
The things that you should always have with you when you're creating are the things that make you more comfortable. So you're always going to use your paper cutter, your scoreboard, your bone folder, your 3 types of adhesive, your liquid glue, your dry glue, and your foam tape or your dimensional adhesive. You're almost always going to use a pencil and ruler, a scissor. Those are basics, and everything else. Your embellishment wand, I almost always use my embellishment wand. Those should always be with you.
The whole thing, or just the cut edges?
I didn't hear the question, I'm sorry.
All edges or just the cut edges?
The cut edges. So just go ahead and do your panels and your, I mean, anywhere where you see the white core. Do you want to use my ink? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know black.
And when you use your black marker, it like doesn't even show hardly, because the goal is just to get rid of that white. Okay. And generally I just throw these away right away, but you never know. You might want to cut out a crown or something. So let's just put these aside for a minute. Okay. Is everybody ready for me to go to the next step, or should we wait another moment? Okay. All right. If you're waiting, maybe now is the time to just get rid of all the extras that you don't need in your space. You can tell how I'm wired, huh? Like, if it's chaos, it's got to go. Okay. I'm going to get rid of my scoreboard. Oops. All right. Let's focus on our half sheet of Pretty in Pink and our paper trimmer. Now this is a half sheet, so that means it's 6 inches wide by 12 inches tall, right? And I'm going to show you in your notes. If you look about the lower third, where it's in bold, prepare pieces from Pretty Pink B-side. B-side. Your half sheet, yep. In your instructions, you're going to have the dimensions so that if I don't make sense or if I don't speak clearly, you can read. We're going to put our half sheet of paper on its side in our paper cutter. You know, so you start out at 12 inches. Actually, if you have you're going to be longer than that. You're going to be at 12 and a half. And we are going to slide over. Our first cut is at is 2 3/8. So I start with your width, but let's just focus on the second measurement, 2 3/8. So what I want you to do, from the bottom of this 12 by 12 sheet of paper, let's measure over 2 5/8 inch, 2 3/8, so sorry, 2 3/8. So that's one line prior, 2 3/8.
Can we cut off the, or do we not need to cut?
You don't need to. So if we just start from the bottom. So this is a directional paper, and that's why I'm giving you this instruction. We're going to measure over 2 3/8 from the bottom. It is. This is going to be our one of our pockets. 2 3/8, and we're going to cut. 2 3/8. Yep. Okay. Then we're going to rotate. We're going to rotate so that you can see the direction in its proper way. And we're going to just measure over to 5 7/8. So we're just going to take a slight amount off, a 1/8 inch trim. And we're going to set this aside for a minute. This is going to be our third pocket, or our fourth pocket. We're going to set this aside.
5 7/8.
Yep, so we're just going to trim off a 1/8.
That's just short of a half.
No, that's just short of
It's two little tiny lines. So it's the line. So right here, Chris, if you look right here, we have 5 1/2. We have 5 3/4, and then two little tiny lines past
So you're cutting off 1/8.
1/8. We're just going to trim off 1/8 of an inch
Off of,
wide.
off of this.
So it's no longer going to be 6 inches. It's going to be 5 7/8.
I just went like this, and I
5
just 7/8 off.
Yep, 5 7/8.
Because mine's a dark pen cutter. No, you're not measuring right there.
So it's just a 1/8.
Think of find 5 3/4. Right, and you're 7/8, so 3/4 is 6/8, so so you need 8. So it's 2 lines shy of the 6.
Okay.
That's better, right?
Okay, yes. Thank you.
No problem. I'm used to teaching sixth graders. Just like that. You know, it's like think
It's
about
true.
quarters,
Yeah,
not 6/8.
yeah, yeah.
No, it's just the same way.
Yeah.
It is.
I miss it.
Oh, I'm so glad I got to help you.
I love that flipping. Well done, Chris. Okay. So,
No, I didn't like that.
all right, are we ready for our next piece?
Uh-huh.
We're gonna put, set that aside. You have successfully created your first piece. All right, ladies, we're gonna put the remainder of our pretty in pink B sign in, and we're gonna slide over to 6 1/4. Yep, we're gonna keep going. Some of us. Yes, Cindy, we're still using the same. We're gonna make 2 more cuts. We're cutting 2 more pieces.
Still from the bottom.
Yep, still from the bottom. We're gonna slide over to 6 1/4. For still from the bottom, yep, and we're gonna cut. 6 1/4. Yep. Then we're gonna rotate this counterclockwise so that our piece is now standing up. Okay, and we're gonna slide over to 4 1/4. And again, your measurements, everything I'm saying, are in your instructions. Okay? So now your finished piece is 4 1/4 by 6 1/4, and we're gonna set that aside. Now we're gonna have this, we're gonna have a cut away and the rest of this piece. Our final piece is so insignificant. It does not need to be this size, but I'm just using it. This one is a little bit too small. So we're gonna set this piece that we just cut away from the second piece, we're gonna set that aside with our triangles and our little 1/8 piece. Now you have the remainder of that half sheet. Okay, you should have 4 inches, including your branding strip. We're gonna slide over to 2 1/2 and cut. That's it.
Did you shoot 4 inches left?
Yeah, you should have 4 inches left, including the branding strip. We're gonna slide over to 2 1/2 and leave it the width that it is. So you're gonna have a 2 1/2 by 6 inch piece of paper. So Sandy, you're gonna turn that sideways. And this piece, again, this is simply to create a hidden paper clip. It really doesn't matter the size. I'm just using this piece of paper up. Okay? And we're going to set this aside into our pieces that we're going to turn into something. Okay?
That's extra.
So you should have 3 pieces that you cut specifically, and those are going to go up in your pile of who knows if we're going to use it or not. We're just going to have it there. Okay? So you have cut 3 pieces. Yep. Yep. The other pieces are going to go into your leftover pile. Is everybody good? Okay. I'm going to put my paper cutter away. You can put your paper cutter away if you like. I mean, we'll get it out again, but for right now. Okay. If you go back to your pile of pieces that we just cut, you're going to get out the smallest piece. It's the one measuring 5 7/8 by 2 3/8. That was the first piece. This is going to be our pocket. This, of the 3 pieces that we just cut, we're going to get out the smallest. Oops, let's move this away. Okay. We're going to get our scoreboard. I was wrong, we do still need it. So we're going to create another pocket. So what does that mean we need to do? We're going to create 2 hinges. And this time we're going to only do 2 side hinges. We're not going to do the bottom hinge. So this would be a shallower pocket. I'm just trying to show you 3 different pockets. Okay? So here we're going to do a 1/2 inch score. Sorry, we're going to place this piece of cardstock that is 5 7/8 by 2 3/8. We're going to score it 1/2 inch on the left. And then for ease, you're just going to rotate it to the opposite end and do another 1/2 inch. So 1/2 inch and 1/2 inch. And then we're going to use the envelope punch board. And we're going to do a finger notch. If we fold those two pieces under and divide it in half, your envelope punch should be at 2 7/8. Do you want me to demonstrate?
Here.
Okay. Because I have folded this under. So it's 5 7/8 prior to if you have folded under your two pieces, your two hinges, we are now going to, oh, why is that? What am I thinking? 2 and, let's have a moment. I meant to say 2 3/8.
Oh, okay.
I'm looking at that going, my eyes are telling me I'm wrong. 2 3/8. So we're just going to find the center and we're going to punch. So we'll pass this around again. Let me just punch this real quick. 2 3/8. If I have written that, oh, I did. So when in your notes, amend your instruction to say 2 3/8 instead of 2 7/8. 2 3/8. The center notch from your envelope punch board.
So what is that supposed to be written? 2 7/8.
Instead of 2 7/8, it should read 2 3/8. I need an editor. Okay, and once you've done that, again, we will get rid of that white core.
Is there any fold up? Just sides, yeah, got it.
Yeah, just the sides. So this pocket will be a little bit shallower. Now you could have added a 1/2 inch hinge and made a little bit shorter pocket. That totally would have been good. Or, remember we had leftover, so we could have made it a deeper pocket. You know, it could have been 3 inches. I just did some random numbers. It really doesn't matter. So when you recreate this, remember that.
Is
So-
it supposed to go from line to line on the
No, it should be a little bit, no, it should be a little bit,
shy.
yeah, on purpose. Yep. And that's the reason why we made it an 1/8 inch smaller than the inside of our card, so that when we folded our doors in, nothing obstructs the closure. Okay, so we're just going to do a little dry run. It's going to end up right here as soon as you have done your finger notch and done your ink on the edges. When you're ready, we can again put liquid glue on the back side of those hinges, and then
She said amended to 2 3/8.
2
Yeah.
3/8.
and then a thin bead of glue as close to the bottom as you can, all the way across the bottom. Then we're going to slide this in between those score lines, clear to the bottom. Okay, and burnish in place.
So it's
Okay, watch for any oozing glue. If you have oozing glue, wipe that up with a baby wipe or a dry cloth
Or your finger.
or your finger. Use it as lotion. I know I'm not the only one that does that.
has it, but this doesn't.
All right, how's everybody doing?
Not okay, I guess.
Okay, so
So now we have one pocket,
Glue.
2 pockets, 3
And
pockets.
there's supposed to be glue across the bottom too.
Yep, thin bead of glue, yep.
This, I don't have some glue yet, so. It should look like it's centered. So you don't do it then. Easy. Should be alright.
So when you're measuring over, as long as your 2 sides are folded in half, slide over to 2 3/8 and punch.
This one actually has the number written on it, so it's not.
The envelope punch board is not only amazing to make your own envelopes, like a 9.5 by 9.5 inch piece of cardstock, and follow the instructions. Okay?
So glue on the 2 folds and just the bottom,
That's right.
correct?
Yep.
This line's too close. Alright.
She's stuck there now. Okay, we'll wait just 1 more minute.
Okay.
The next piece that I want you to just grab, and this will indicate if you're with me or not, we're going to grab the largest piece from that panel. You're going to make sure that the edges, or I'm sorry, that you're looking at it in the correct direction. We can go ahead and get rid of the white core. And you know what? We should have done a corner rounder on 2 of the 4 corners. So whenever my corner rounder comes back, we'll do that. And the one you want to do is the top. The bottom. Huh, wrong. The bottom. If you lay it on top of your panel, it will be the bottom. If you're holding it up behind, it will be the top. So depending on, that's just that's fine too. Bless you. Okay. So I'm going to repeat that back in case you were working on a prior. So our next piece is the largest piece from the Pretty in Pink. And just do a dry run. We're going to lay this on top of the folded center flap so that we can see that we want to use the smallest, the 1/4 inch, and corner around the bottom left and the bottom right corner only. If you do all 4, that's fine. That's what we don't want to do. We just want to do a dry run.
So just the 2
2 bottom. And then get rid of that core. Does anybody need a corner rounder?
Yeah.
This is going to turn into our 4th and final pocket. So we've just done the bottom left and the bottom right. And when I say bottom, you're kind of doing a dry run. You're laying it over the folded over flap. You're just laying it so you know how it's going to look. Bottom left and bottom right. Okay. Now when you flip this up and you're just doing this pretend glued together, it's going to be what you see when you open this up. This is going to be a pocket. So what I want you to do, let's keep it in the folded position or in the engaged position. I didn't say that before. This is going to be engaged so that you have that spine. Okay. What I'd like to see you do is just, again, doing a dry run. You're going to lay it on this flap so that the left, the right, and the top have a similar border. This doesn't have to be perfect, but that's the goal, to have a similar border. Okay?
My hearts don't line up like yours
And you don't have to worry about what your neighbors looks like. We're just going to do our best right here. Now here's what I do to help me. This may or may not help you, but I'm going to put my thumb underneath where I don't want to go past in the gluing. I'm going to say that different. I know that I want to glue this to this flap, and clearly this much is going to be exceeding. There's nothing for it to glue to. So in an effort for me to know where to apply the glue, I'm putting my thumb here, and I'm going to flip it over, and now I'm going to, whoops, take my pin out,
Oh, that's so pretty.
and I'm going to put a thin bead of glue on the left and the right only. Okay? And I'm going to turn it back over, and I'm going to lay it down, giving those same borders.
Cindy, is there any reason why you couldn't use the other side if you like it?
It's up to you. Yeah, you can
Are
do
you
that.
gonna be using a lot of this other color or the other?
Well, we're gonna see this paper. We're
Uh-huh.
gonna use these as our cutter parts. So I really
Those
did
are
have a
colors.
reason. Yeah, this is gonna be where all your pink shows up. So good question. So we're gonna let this glue dry. We're gonna make sure that there's nothing exceeding. Burnish that, making sure that the glue is where it's gonna be. And then here's another place for your ruler or your bone folder. After you give that just a moment to dry, you're going to be able to see, oh, I forgot the bottom or the top. Duh. So sorry. Here's how you fix it. So 3, you would I should have said 3. The corner rounded edge and the other 2. But if you followed me, you're just going to put a thin bead of glue underneath. So sorry. My bad. My bad. So glue will go along the top of the straight edge and the 2 sides.
So on that hingy side.
In the middle.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
You may want to just like, use a scrap and let that dry. Because you're right.
Once that you feel like that glue is dry, then you could take your ruler and kind of slide it in there, preparing it for something fun. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4 pockets. Okay. Everybody good? And now we're going to set this aside for a minute, and we're going to focus on cutting our second piece of paper. I guess this is our third piece of paper.
And there's still pieces, there's still one.
Yep. Yep, we still have
Make
a,
sure it's right.
yep, good question. I can put this away.
Yes. Leave yourself a 4 inches on the top.
Yeah, that, yep. Put your glue as close to the edges of the 3 sides as you can. And it's just a thin bead. Only 3 sides.
You do it on the bottom. She's talking about the other piece.
The uncorner rounded side. Is that better said? 3 sides.
She's
'Cause-
putting it on the flap because she put the glue on the bottom of the other one.
Oh,
So she's trying to protect.
got it. Okay. All right, I want everybody else to grab their final piece of paper and your paper cutter. And we'll start, of course, by turning it on its side so that we can cut away the brand labels. Here's how I always, almost all of your collections will have a sheet like this that will have your cutter parts and your borders. And I always just study them at first because I want to use every bit of this paper. So here's what I do. You can't just cut this in half or in thirds. You have to pay attention to what have they done for us. And also, how can we do this with the most ease? So I know I've said this 100 times, probably in every class. It is way more difficult to cut an 1/8 inch or a 1/4 inch than it is, 11 3/4. So let's put our paper in so that we can, once we've cut off the branding strip, let's put it back in our paper trimmer so that it's straight up and down. And then since I can see that there's 1, 2, 3 borders right off the bat, let's individually cut those apart. So we're going to use the if the crown fits on our pocket. So I'm going to line up my paper so that where the paper goes from cream to gold, I'm going to cut right on that line. I'm not necessarily worrying about what size that is. I just want to separate these border pieces and make the most of this paper. So I'm cutting. I'm going to do that again. I'm going to divide where the gold and the pink. So the gold banner says a happily ever after, rather, all the way across. So I'm going to cut that right where the gold and the pink come together. So it's way harder to just cut this amount. So let's just do this now. Let's now slide this over and we're going to separate princess. That's what this one says. So I'm going to line that up where that division or the new pattern changes. Oops. Make sure everything is straight. Uncut. Okay. Now we're going to turn it around. It's now upside down. And now you're going to see where there's like this, I'm going to call this a rose vine. And then next to it is Live the Life You Imagined. But there's a darker gold bar on either side of those roses. So I'm going to keep the darker gold and separate the lighter gold. Oops. And cut that away. Okay. Then I'm going to cut away the Live the Life You Imagined. Right where the polka dot starts. The polka dot's going to stay on the left and the Live the Life You Imagine is going to be on the right. Okay. And we are then going to remove the polka dot postal stamp section. You'll see that there is a darker pink at one end and gold at the other. Okay, I'm going to cut that off. Okay, now you have the remainder. We can now divide our paper in half and move it over to 6 inches, pretty much. Because now the top will have 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces, and the bottom will have 1, 2, 3 pieces. So we're going to cut the top away. Yep. Then the bottom half, I'm going to cut the largest piece, the believe, away from the 2 smaller pieces. We're going to divide the Where Will Your Dreams Take You and cut the stripes away from the pink. I'm going to turn this piece upside down and cut away again those roses. And I'm going to keep that darker edge, but it, it doesn't, it's not huge to be right on that line. Cut that away. Turn it back right side up. And cut away. Its life itself is the most wonderful fairy tale of all. So our goal is to simply get all of these cut aparts cut now. Cut apart, that's right. We're cutting this apart the most efficiently. Okay? So now you should have bunches of pieces. These are all going to turn into our embellishments. So I'm just going to kind of put them on display. This is what we should have. Lots of goodness, all from your paper, and none of this is really fussy cut yet. Do you like how I said that?
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. All right, everybody there? Okay. Now I want you to see some of the things, some of the suggestions. We can take our largest piece. It will be a perfect photo mat. It's pretty on this side. The back side can be for a photo, but it's going to slip inside your pocket. Okay? You can focus up here for a minute. Right now, what I see is something upside down. It's not going to be visible by the time we're done, so don't worry about that. But some things we can consider. We can put this pretty label up here because you could maybe title this card. Maybe this is going to be a birthday card or an encouragement card or a missing you card. Sending you hugs from afar. I mean, it could be all kinds of things. So it could be that you use that there, or maybe you want, where will your dreams take you? Maybe this is going to be a graduation card or an engagement card or something, a new job card. So many different options. So here's where you're going to want to start thinking about where you want to place this. I like the opportunity to use one of these smaller pieces to extend the size of your pocket. It could be on one of the diagonal ones to give more strength if you're going to load this up, or to hide a gift card or, something, another photo. It could go there. To decorate your pocket, you could use one of these pieces that will be set apart when you use it. So it could be the gold, it could be the princess, it could be live the life you imagined. Just going to give you some thoughts. The front for me, I just loved this message. And for me, this was going to be the overarching message. Life itself is the most wonderful fairy tale of all, which is a Hans Christian Andersen quote. So for me, I'm going to put foam tape or dimensional tape on the back side of this. I'm going to, of course, do all of my edges on all of these pieces. But then I'm going to center this. And then I thought that it would be pretty to add some roses, a rose border above and below. So remember, I think this was 4 1/4. Let's verify that my memory is serving me well. Yep, 4 1/4. So for me, I'm going to cut this rose border. I'm going to cut 2 panels of 4 1/4. You could. I didn't. I like that idea, and you're welcome to use my corner rounder. I didn't. Your sample is there. Who didn't end up with a sample? Those are my advanced students.
Yeah.
Okay. I liked using the other larger piece to go inside this pocket, but that means we need to trim it if that's what you're going to do. So a thought. So your next thing that you could be working on would be to get rid of the white core of each of these pieces. While you're deciding, what am I going to do with each of these? Tell me some of the things that you think you could use this card for.
Wedding.
Wedding, yeah. Engagement, yeah. Birthday. Graduation.
I like that the pocket is big enough you could put a letter inside there.
Yes. Good job, Sarah. Sarah said she likes that the pocket is large enough to enclose a letter. Definitely put a gift card or a photo of a memory that you want to remind them of. Here's a quiz. Does a 5x7 card cost extra to mail? No. Excellent. Nope. Nope. It is a stand, unless it's heavier or thicker. You're right.
I have to pay one.
Depends on who's behind the counter.
I have to say.
Yes.
I have to pay.
Yes. Let's see. Here's, yes, bubble wrap, yes. If you love to,
You know, so my little
okay, for me, before I put my life itself is the most wonderful fairy tale, for my design, I'm gonna glue down with liquid glue these rose borders so that I know that I have enough space. And as I do so many times, I always do a dry run. So I'm going to use all three pieces. I'm going to see where this makes the most sense. And once I land on where I think it's the prettiest, one at a time, I'm going to pick up these rose borders and glue them down with liquid glue or your tape runner. You guys thinking of any other questions for me while we're doing this gluing and... Guys are all pros. Okay. I'm going to add this to my diagonal pocket, which means it's important that I only put glue where there's something for it to attach to. Watch for any seeping glue. Okay. What else can we do? I'll put foam tape on that in a minute. And so I believe this was 4 7/8. So I'm going to cut this down to 4 7/8. And again, since I just cut it, I need to get rid of that white core. Okay. And I like how the finger notch is a tell. Something is there for you to peek in. Who can tell me some of the bonuses of owning a envelope punch board?
You can make your own envelope.
You can make your own envelopes. What else?
You can make finger notches.
Finger notches. And I forgot to say, on the back side of your envelope punch board is also a corner rounder.
Yep.
So, let's really see who is listening. What size paper do you need to make a 5 by 7 envelope?
9 by 9.
Figure.
9.5.
So close.
9.5.
9.5. Yes, sir. Well done.
Who do I get the prize today?
I think so.
I definitely deserve it.
Let's see.
Handful of magical beans.
Yeah. Cindy,
Yes.
last class, did you have a leftover tool that wasn't for you?
I don't
Okay.
think so. What tool? What kind of tool would it be? I always keep them in this cup if I find something,
Oh, okay.
or I post to the group.
Okay.
Okay. Is everybody doing well while I add some foam tape? Are we having any questions online, honey?
For the elegance. No, you don't have it.
Okay.
During COVID, I signed that. So I just signed that.
Okay. When I add my foam tape, I try really hard to not have
I don't
gaps.
want to be a punk, but when do we have a magnet?
We're going to put that in a minute.
Oh, okay.
No, that's not being a punk.
Well, I don't know.
I just-
Maybe.
I just lost
It
the
is Sarah
prize.
back there.
Thank you.
We haven't got into our little goodie packet yet.
Okay. I was concentrating.
I know, you're so good.
I'm right.
Yeah.
You're being so good. And you weren't even asking your neighbor, which is even better.
Just look. You won't know. Yeah. I know my neighbor.
Just dry running.
Now you got me thinking, Pam. Maybe I should have corner rounded.
I did.
Good job. Good job.
I like to really.
Always makes it look a little more finished.
It does. You girls are right. So I started to say, I want this to be a nice, strong, I don't want somebody to poke at it and they sink. Not that they're really going to poke at it, but now what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the protective liner and I'm going to put a little bit of liquid glue on that, not because it needs extra sticky, but because it will give me a little insurance. I can slide it a little bit if I'm not straight. So I'm just going to scribble, scribble, scribble a little bit of liquid glue on top of my foam tape. Hover above where I think it should go. I'm looking for an even border left to right and a slight border top and bottom. And I'm going to call that good. Okay. How's everybody doing?
Terrific.
Okay. Let's take a minute so that everybody's on the same page. And let's open our little Ziploc of goodness. Inside, you should have this beautiful piece of lace. You should have a little tiny paper clip. You should have a magnet from Basic Gray that I have paired. So on one side it will have a minus and on one side it will have a plus. Behind that plus and minus is sticky goodness. And then in your bag you should still have 3 different sizes of vintage shimmer Studio Katia flat back pearls.
That's the clip, that's the paper clip
The first thing we're going to do from this packet is we're going to get out our magnets.
Oh, did you say where the lace came from?
It's in your packet,
No,
but
where, what
from the
company?
store. Yeah.
What company?
Oh, 49er Market.
Huh?
Why, yes, all of this is available both on our web store and in our brick and mortar store. Thank you for asking. These are the Basic Gray magnets. I have them in both sizes, but today, since we're just doing a simple magnetic closure on our card, we two work in pairs. Okay. All right. Now, you can do the reverse of what I'm going to do, but just so that we're all doing the same thing, I'm going to suggest that you fold the right door, then the left door, then the flap with the engaged gusset. That's important because if it is not engaged, your magnet will not be happy with you. Well, you won't be happy with the magnet, actually, because the magnet's going to be the boss. So I see some questions. So when I'm saying that so that this top flap, this is going to be where we're going to add our magnet. That engaged gusset is so that everything lines up and does not have any kind of pull. That space allows the sides to close in on itself with all of your things in place. Did I say that in such a way that made sense? Okay, so if we go right door, left door, then what I'm going to suggest, let's just choose the negative. Let's remove the negative protective liner.
It's the minus.
The minus sign.
Minus the opposite of positive.
And I always suggest, we're going to put it on this upside down piece of paper, and I always suggest that you place your thumb in the center of this space so that we give plenty of room for this magnet, because if we have to cover this magnet, we need that paper or that fussy cut image to have the ability to go past the magnet. It needs to go, that'll make sense in a minute. So I'm going to place this sticky side down below my thumb, and I'm going to press. And so now I'm going to come back to this. If I were going to add a layer of paper to disguise that there's a magnet there, I need to be able to place my paper with its adhesive in such a way that it will actually cover the magnet and not constantly fight with that space. So I like to give like a thumb's width from the edge of your paper. Now I want you to questions on that before I continue? Okay, now I want you to slide the positive magnet off for a minute. Just slide it to the side. And I promise you, sliding it off is way easier than trying to pick it off. So just slide it to the right.
Or left.
You choose. And then from your scrap pile, your triangles or the leftovers, anything. I'm just going to put this here, this rose border.
Get you across.
Okay, can we see that? So now we've got one magnet. We've slid the other one over. It's not on the card. We're going to put any piece of cardstock over that magnet. Okay, now I'm going to take the other magnet and I'm going to let it find its mate. Now I'm going to grab my, I don't know, tweezers, my craft pick, anything, and I'm going to remove that protective liner. Okay, now we've got a sticky, exposed magnet with a piece of scrap paper in between the pair, right? Our doors are folded right and left over the right. We've engaged our gusset. We're going to bring this panel, this flap, down, and we're going to press. Really press. The reason why we put that piece of paper in the middle of that is now I'm going to lift this up and it's not going to tear away from the cardstock. I don't know how many times, if you skip this part, you will quickly remember the importance of it. Because these magnets are so strong. So strong.
So you're not.
Example, look at all these are stuck together. I mean, they're strong.
So can you color it?
Oh, that was just to, yes, we're going to do that in a minute. This was just for the placement. In taking this route, you have the perfect placement. Your gusset's engaged, your doors are closed, you've got your things decorated. This is exactly where you want this to close. Okay, now we're going to open this back up. And you're going to see, how do I hide these? How do I hide these magnets? Well, we still have all these pieces. So we can choose, do we want where will your dreams live? Do we want to put some postage stamps and just kind of scatter them? Do we want to add a rose border? Do we want to fussy cut out some roses? You can do all kinds of things. One of the easiest things probably is this rose border. But it depends on what you want to be here. What is your focus of this card? So for me, I'm going to cut this down 3.5, because remember these panels are 3.5 inches. Has everybody got their pieces in place? Your cut aparts and your borders? Can you hear us now? Testing, testing. Give us a sign if you can hear us. Oops. Let's see, I'm going to lay this down, so I'm going to have another pocket. Okay, so actually this turned out to be a 5-pocket card, if you use that as a pocket. Can everybody hear now?
Yes.
Okay, yay. Apologize for that interruption. Okay, maybe this can go in here, or I'm now going to move on to our hidden, well, no, let's do our pearls. That way I don't continue to throw these around. Okay, use my little triangle, whoops, and my embellishment wand. Okay, I'm going to do a little dry run here. Where will I like these pearls? And let's see. Maybe. Look at this little tiny one. There we go. All right, maybe it needs to go even higher. All right. I always like using the metal end to just slide things around, and the sticky end to pick it up and move it. So let's call that good. We're doing the pearls, for those of you who are...
That's what I thought I heard.
So do a dry run, make sure you like where you are thinking. Once you like it, then just pick up your pearl and just put a quick dot of glue. Bring your pearl to your dot of glue. This embellishment wand, love it, love it, love it. Studio Katia. Not only is it very effective, but it's pretty. Okay, so now we've got our cut aparts in place. We still have extra. We've put some things in some pockets, but now we still need to make our little hidden paper clip. And this is where I was saying the size really doesn't matter. I was just choosing, let's just do some random size. So this ended up being, let's verify, this ended up being something like 6 by 2.5. Whatever you have is perfect. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to fold it in half. I could score it at 3 inches and fold it in half, or I could just fold it in half. If you just fold it in half, you're going to see the difference why your scoreboard is important. Because oftentimes your paper will just kind of fight you. It'll, get all, no, I don't want to do it. And then you have to force a bone folder over it to burnish it smooth again. And then maybe I'm going to take some leftovers. And you can decide, I'm choosing this more colors as the side that's going to be seen. I'm going to place my paper clip on the folded edge, and I'm going to put it right in the middle. Now there are so many ways to do this, so we're just going to focus on this technique today. So we have folded our piece, our 2.5 by 6 inch piece of paper in half, so that it's now 3 by 2.5, and our paper clip is sitting on the folded edge, right in the middle. Then we may consider, and if I'm going to do that the opposite just for fun, I'm going to have the lighter because now I'm thinking I want to use these stamps
That's what it is.
as a contrast. That'd be prettier. But you do whatever is prettier to your eye. I'm going to use my scissor, and I'm just going to cut away that top postage stamp, and I'm going to keep the rose. Do you have to do that? Nope. This is totally up to you. And then I'm going to cut another one. I'm going to separate the third one down so that I have even border all the way around. So now I'm going to focus on these two pieces. Is that a rule? No, not at all. That's just what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to now take and do my edges. Because this is directional, I have cut these two pieces apart instead of just cutting it, you know, and folding it over. Okay, now, let's score this, just because it's a smaller section. And I'm going to score this right where the top of the postage stamp is, or right above it. So I'm going to score it, for me, it's at 3/4 of an inch. And that score ends up being right above the top of that postage stamp. So that I can have this. So that rose is going to come up and over. The back side will be upright. And I'm going to then glue this underneath in just a minute. That's my why. Again, that's not a rule.
I understand.
I'm going to do it again. So I cut, because what I was left over with was directional things. No, it's just because that's what I chose. I cut one with the flower, and then I cut a second one. Now, if I wouldn't have done that, if I would have just kept this whole, and I wrapped around, which I haven't said that yet, but if I would have done that, now one of them are upside down.
I understand that, but why would you flip this one over the top?
Well, so that, because we're going to hide, we're going to
Okay.
hide our paper clip. So I'm going to put this back.
So I just have to focus.
So we're going to do those edges. Yeah, so we should do it before we put the paper clip on. Thank you. And you can decide which side you want to be seen. We're going to create a hidden clip, which means one is going to be hidden and one will be in addition to your card. But based on whatever pieces you have left over, you'll just want to decide which one will actually enhance your card design. Now, something fun that you might consider is you might hold this up and you might say, you know, let's just tear a little bit of that away. That might not be your thing. You might go, oh, that gives me hives. So if that gives you hives, don't do it. So now I have a little bit left. Let's make that a little angled. And then I'll come back and add a little ink. Okay, so now we have this. Put my paper clip back over. And again, this can vary. You can decide you want it this way. This is a personal decision. You decide. See, if I put this on top, it still is pretty. Still is pretty. We just have to decide these things. Gosh, I don't know. Let's do a dry run. if I put it here, or if I put it here, that's how you're going to tell. So for me, I'm going to do it like this. There's more contrast, so I'm going to do this side. So back to the paper clip being in the center, and I'm stalling so that everybody can be on the same page. So we're going to make sure we've got our edges done. We've done our dry run. We've cut our pieces out. We've scored a piece to go over the edge. And now I'm going to use some Scor-Tape. And I'll bring this over because that's easier so that you can see on camera. And I'm going to just take some Scor-Tape and put it over my paper clip. I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to do it again. You can cut this if you want, or you can tear it. 1 inch is a great size for this. Do you have to have 1 inch? Nope. I just have all the sizes and I love this size for so many reasons. This is one of them. We don't want this paper clip wandering, and this will do the job. I'm going to wait till everybody is in the same spot. So I haven't removed the protective liner, so this is, you know, it's still, we can still amend, we can still adjust. And depending on which side you want the rose on, do you want it to be on the front or do you want it to be on the back? Again, it's another personal decision, but again, we want the direction of the ladies to be upright. We don't want them upside down. Now I gotta decide. Once you decide, I'm gonna put it on the back. Once you decide, you're gonna remove the protective liner from one side only. That way you don't cause a catastrophe for yourself. If you want a little insurance, you can add liquid glue over the top. Ooh, I could corner around that. No, I'm just gonna behave. I'm gonna scribble some liquid glue on the back. And I'm not gonna bother putting it on the Scor-Tape, and I'm just gonna center this. Oh, I'm going to come down a little. I forget our flower is going to come over the top. Okay. So I brought this down, leaving room for the rose to come up and over. Let's flip this up. Ooh, not quite yet. I'm going to put my liquid glue on the back of the piece that I scored with the rose. I'll leave it like that. Remove my protective liner. Okay. And come up and over. Oops. And because we're using liquid glue, I can slide. Slide scoochy scoochy. Oops. I'm scooching too much. There we go. Burnish in place. And now this will slide over one of the door panels, whatever one you want. Here, let's put it over here since this had less on it. And then you could have a photo, another message, a picture, something, and it can slide underneath there.
When you close it,
Yep.
did the little gusset that you made, does that take the height of that.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah. And now you still have leftovers. So you can just continue to decorate until you have no more decorations. Here's if the crown fits, it can layer on top. Could go across the bottom. I don't know. What do you girls think?
I think it's amazing.
Sarah. I love Sarah.
I love it too.
Is anybody in a spot where you're like, I need a little bit of assistance?
You want to walk through the card and
All right, if there are no further questions, I'm just going to go over this one last time. This is what you should end up with. You should have this as the face. This is what they will see when they pull it out of the envelope. They should be able to open. There'll be a pocket here with something that they will treasure. You know, we're going to pretend it's this and a photo or something. You're going to consider writing a personal message there. There's no evidence that there's magnets here, but they're just going to know that there's something cool in there. You can slide a gift card or this sentiment. This simply says, where will your dreams take you? Once upon a time. Here's your fun little hidden paper clip that can be used for a myriad of things. Another pocket. Another pocket. And here was a bonus pocket, depending on what you did. All right? I am so grateful that you took this time to spend with me. And if there's any questions that I can answer, please let us know. Until next time, have a great day.